Welcome to another episode of Marketing Corner as we explore small, medium business challenges out there. We're exploiting and understanding organizations to try and figure out how we, your students, can take the knowledge you're gaining in the classroom back into application and help these small, medium-sized businesses out there. Today, we're very blessed to have, and we're very excited to learn. We're skipping across multiple different ponds, and Eric is actually in two different places. Right now, I think he's in Montreal, but normally he is in California. But Eric is a part of an organization that's been around for a while, and I think Eric's going to fill us in on that. But Eric Eric, if you want to let us know, who are you? How do we know who is Eric?
Well, my name is Eric Chaimberg. I'm the vice president of advertising and design at Swing Paints, which is located in Montreal. My background, how I kind of got here, it's a family-run business, so I was basically born into it, and through all different avenues kind of made it back to it, but through an education, I've got a Master of Science in direct marketing and spent a good deal of time in corporate America doing that sort of thing, and then came back to the family business in 1993, pretty much at this point. So yeah, we've been around though since 1965.
Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those easy things because my father purchased the company a month before I was born. So the company and I have been aging together, it a little more gracefully than me, but
Well, I think you look great, my friend. I think you look great. So I think, like it doesn't show it all. So this is all great. So Eric, take us back into what is Swing Paint? What is it all about?
So originally a paint company. My dad had a hardware store, and this was a paint company that was run by a larger US company that had decided they were moving out of Canada, and they put the company up for sale and he purchased it. So he started running a paint company, basically. We expanded into other avenues. My father was kind of the consummate entrepreneur. So he was interested in everything and anything. And the first kind of push from just the paint came in the form of wood refinishing. He loved antiques. He loved the idea of preserving older things, of having grown up in Montreal in the 20s and 30s. I mean, he understood that whatever you had was something kind of to be treasured. And so nobody had any money. So you basically, you repaired, you repurposed, you did everything you could with things. And that influenced the way he viewed things in business as well. And so the first thing he looked at was the wood finishing business, and we got into that aspect. So he moved from just paint into wood finishing, do it yourself, those types of things.
So Eric, take us back. So we're saying, so in 1965, bought the organization. It was a paint company, so it did a variety of different paints all the way across. Your dad figured out, hey, look, there seems to be an opportunity within this element of the wood refinishing business, and we can play to this.
Exactly. And so he started going to trade shows, going out on the road. That was his thing. He loved to talk to people. He loved to tell stories. So he was perfect for that. And he encountered the gentleman who ran a company called Minwax in the US. And at that point, it was not the company it is today, part of a global company, actually. And they struck up a relationship, and he decided, since he had this factory, well, why doesn't he make the products for this guy? This guy was strictly in the United States. Why don't we start making this for you in Canada? And that was really how the evolution went from just strictly paint to making, oils, stains, varnishes, everything that was pretty much within their roster kind of came to us. And that was, let's say, one of the first expansions.
And so, Eric, and just so we can get it all captured in the as we move, we'll come back to today's market and we're moving into and moving forward. But talking back into that space, okay, so we now shifted. So would you consider most of the market up until probably today, or even maybe about 5 years ago, was more of a B2B market, more of a relationship with, like you said, hardware stores and with this Minwax element? Was that really where the business was?
Well, for us, actually, since he had the original paint and hardware store,
Yeah.
that became a paint and wallpaper store.
Oh, cool.
So we just really became, and then he opened another store, and then he opened another store, and all in all, we probably had close to 20 stores in Montreal.
Wow.
So we were very much a vertically oriented business, because we supplied all the paints, all the chemicals, all of those sort of things for our own stores.
Okay.
But as much as we could. So that, that was the direction that he had gone. And at the same time, these other items, the wood finishing products, started to be picked up by other stores.
Okay.
But the paint aspect was strictly for our own stores.
Okay.
And that's how it all continued to evolve. So you had that growth, because you had your own outlets. You could keep the factory working because you had places to sell to with your own stores for it. So
fast forward us now, seemed like very successful business, over from 1965 and continuing to be a very successful business. Tell us how the business has changed and what does it look like now?
So now we don't make any paint whatsoever. So it's always fun, especially, when I've been doing these, various student projects. So they start researching the paint industry, and that's all well and good, but we don't make any paints anymore. We make specialty paints is all we do. We make epoxies for bathtub, kind of high-end things, but the paint that goes on your wall, we don't make as a practice, to be honest. We have a couple of lines that we still have for specific customers, but we view ourselves now more as a general chemical company.
Okay.
We've got a couple of hundred SKUs, and we go from the most general solvents of acetone, methyl hydrate, paint thinner, that sort of thing, to the most specialized items in the wood finishing area, or high-end epoxies, that sort of thing. So basically, given our size, we would just keep reinventing ourselves along the way, like any business that wants to, if you've been around almost 60 years, you have no choice. You've got to keep, changing your focus, finding new avenues. When you're dealing with chemicals, you're also dealing, obviously, too, with governments, regulations, changes on what you can sell, what you cannot sell. So you have, you have no choice but to kind of modify your offerings. And then you're dealing with the cycle of consumer change and their likes, dislikes, etc. When we had the paint and wallpaper stores, we had one store that had, probably 5,000 square feet of wallpaper rolls. Maybe $2 a roll, $3 a roll. This was in the 70s and 80s, when people were wallpapering absolutely everything they could get their hands on. For it. And unfortunately, everybody who took over their places in the 90s was trying to figure out how to get this stuff off.
Again, the shift of the evolution and Yeah, and how you, Eric, and Swing Paints has adapted to the changes and rolled with the punches, let's say, into the different elements. Now, let's go further into this element. Let's go into now, my friend. The evolution has changed even further. We're seeing more of this appetite towards direct to consumer. We see this element of more businesses are moving away from those third party element relationships and more like, hey, I got the ultimate product, how do I get it to the ultimate customer, and how do I build those relationships? So tell us a little bit about the journey nowadays. Where's your customer? Who is your customer? How are you reaching them?
Now, for us, it's still primarily the business to business, though.
Okay.
Um, as kind of a courtesy, we have an e-commerce website. Actually, my website I set up back in 2000 before people were all that comfortable with purchasing chemicals over the internet. At that time, they were purchasing, but it was limited, to books, to clothing, to those type of goods.
Yeah.
The idea of getting a big thing of paint stripper in the mail didn't really appeal to people, and I'm sure it
Exciting.
didn't appeal to Canada Post either. So at that time, so we have just primarily, so we go to everyone from small companies who might be using the products within their own manufacturing or as cleaning products on that side. Then we've got distributors who distribute to multiple outlets, retail outlets, small hardware stores, big hardware stores, specialty stores. And then you have the larger chains like the Home Hardwares of the world and that sort of thing. The big boxes at the moment, we're not in the big boxes. We've been in the big boxes where we've owned the 8-foot stripper section, then we get thrown out, then we get asked back, then we get thrown out. But you're kind of at the whim of buyers as well, of course. So that's, we never put all our eggs in one basket. So it's not, unfortunately, a lot of small companies, when they get in bed with a Home Depot or a Lowe's, if they lose that account, they close the doors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that we, always, we got into, let's say, the Rona warehouse or the Home Hardware warehouse by spending years getting into all the individual franchise stores, and then them saying, hey, we don't want to keep ordering direct, we have all these stores, why don't you let us into the warehouse type of thing. So we've always worked it from the ground up instead of starting from corporate and then having the products pushed at the individuals.
So when we talk about Eric, so in marketing, we talk about push and pull strategies of marketing and getting that, we got that element of that pushing that product out through the retail outlet. We also have that element of that pulling those potential end users into the stores to request these kind of products. How is Swing Paints handling that element? How now with these relationships with these retailers, and then your end user? Who is your end user, and how are you reaching those?
Yeah, the end users are changing as well. That's a big part of where we got involved, you and I, because we're trying to address the younger market as much as we can. We're sort of being a mature brand and company.
Yeah.
We have to, it's the type of thing where your dad, your grandfather, like you would find one of my products in somebody's basement, but a 20-year-old probably wouldn't know about it. And I kind of defined our marketplace when I used to go to all the wood shows and exhibit. My booth is here, and the guys next to me are doing, trying to recruit people to go and get prostate, tests. There's my market, that's what I'm dealing with right now. So we're trying to get a whole different type of customer and capture, the people who are just starting to get their own apartments, who are just starting to get their first place that they might be purchasing. And they've got a vested interest in their own home and what they can do to make it nicer, to add items to it that are not just necessarily disposable items that we may have had in college, but things of value and things that will be more, also things that will be more sustainable. And I think that is one of the things that we do benefit from, that this younger generation, they do want things that are sustainable. They are more aware of their environment, our environment, and how the things that they do, the things that they purchase, how that affects us as a whole. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Eric, and you kind of tap into that, because I think, yeah, they are definitely interested in the sustainability of things. And I think they're also interested in the reusable market on this element. And I think one thing that they definitely are tapping into is this DIY stuff, this do-it-yourself stuff. How can I leverage a YouTube video to repurpose this piece of furniture in a different way so that I can, yeah, like you said, make it my own?
Exactly. I mean, HGTV, DIY network,
Yeah.
they kind of changed the face of this whole industry.
Yeah.
And then the 2 years of the pandemic did the same thing, because all of a sudden everybody was stuck at home. All those projects that your wife had wanted you to do for years and years, you now no longer, you didn't have an excuse anymore because you had no place to go. You couldn't go anywhere. So you were either, you just had to get your hands dirty and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've definitely benefited from that. But like you say, if you look on YouTube now, you can pretty much find how to do anything.
Yeah.
It's just kind of blows my mind on anything I think of. I mean, I had to replace a part on my dishwasher, and I swear to God, there were a dozen videos on replacing this part. All of these different people, it was amazing to just be able to go on, do the research yourself, and complete it.
Well, and it's fun because, Eric, I've done the same thing. I've rebuilt the dishwasher, I've rebuilt the oven, I've rebuilt the refrigerator, all using. I have no skills like this, but I've used YouTube to understand it, because the cost of going to replace it, and plus I'm thinking, do I really need to replace it? Because I'm just going to contribute to the waste of this element. And I'm like, so I even me being, I'm way past that younger element. So I'm heading towards this side of things. But even I think anybody's thinking about that with the cost element. So Eric, let's take us back down to this. We've got this target audience. We're looking for this younger audience that drive swing paints in a new, different direction. What are some of the challenges you're facing in reaching those individuals?
Well, it's just, for us, it's a matter of prioritizing what we need to do and get done. We're a pretty lean organization, and we try and do everything in-house. That's another thing. So part of that is because, we want to control the quality. I'm sure part of it is because we're a little bit of, my brother and I are little control freaks, and we like to control everything, but we just find that we do so much better that way. So as a result, things don't happen, maybe quite as quickly as we'd like. But it is the, coming up with the production of our own videos and how to show, off the products as best as we can to attract that audience, and how to send them to the stores in such a way. But with manufacturing so many items, and with the retail environments not wanting to carry, they want to carry stuff that's going to turn like a can of white paint, or bare aspirin, they want it on the shelf, off the shelf. This stuff doesn't quite do that. So that's sort of where the e-commerce site fits into it, where it's, gives them the opportunity that they can get the product. Just because they might walk into their local hardware store, they'll find some of my items, but they won't find the one they want. So, so we're trying to build awareness. The brand itself, our Circa 1850 brand, has good awareness, but not necessarily with the 20-year-olds. With, when you start talking to someone, in their 40s or so, they'll remember it, and they'll remember seeing the can, or things like that. So we're sort of banking on that, and looking for ways to stand out, not take ourselves too seriously,
Yeah.
as
Well,
well.
well, Eric, and you're talking about some of the things, and I think what these students will determine, like, and then going forth, is we're starting to see like companies like yourself that have some great stories from behind your history. Is how do you purposely change that into storytelling that you can share, that you can get people engaged with across multiple different platforms, and I think the other piece that comes into play that students should be thinking about is how do we create that omni-channel experience while leveraging the retailer as well as yourself to try and create elements to help customers find what they're looking for and the connecting tissue there. So there's definitely some very big, awesome opportunities here for students to explore, my friend, in multiple different ways, and to challenge them to think about differently, leveraging technologies of today, like sort of artificial intelligence, leveraging technologies around tools that might make the accessibility of leveraging your website and the retailer's website to create that omni-channel experience. And I think you're giving us some really good information here, Eric, and I think it's a really neat challenge for our students to be able to think about how can they leverage some of these pieces in order to retell your story. We position you in a different way in order to get Swing Paint's story out there.
Yeah. And also for them, to whenever I've talked to any of the students, I always try and tell them not to be overwhelmed. Because if you look at my website and you start looking at 100 products, you don't know where to go. So, here's 10 items. Focus there. And again, so there's all different areas of social media. Focus on a couple. You can't, when you have deep pockets, you can do everything.
Yep.
You have to pick and choose, and you have to see where you're going to expend your energy. But to me, the most important thing is make sure that the message is coming from the same voice.
Yeah.
This is, that's the strategy, is really the branding strategy. This is who you are. Even if you modernize your packaging, which you'll want to do, obviously over time, you still need to keep something with the consistency of the past so that people can still find you on the shelf. You don't want to be, so cool, so trendy. It's all about, I learned very quickly, design for design's sake, design that wins awards is great.
Yeah.
But that isn't the reality. And that's, the most important thing is when you're working with a designer, you're working to do creative, you start with the, very clear objectives. What is this posting supposed to achieve? What is this ad going to do? What is this video? What is the purpose? And how does it fit into the overall strategy of building the brand?
I absolutely love it, Eric. And it's exactly the element that building the story, building the theme, leveraging the past, not changing too drastically, as you said, because you won't have product recognition. You will lose that product recognition really quickly, and adapting that change and changing to meet the new needs of the market, like Swing Paints has done all along, and like it continues to do all the time. Eric, it's absolutely been an awesome episode. I'm really excited to see what the students are going to be able to do with this, play with this, and see what they come back with. So thanks so much for your time today.
Oh, great. I appreciate it, David. Thanks so much.